Yo, what is going on, y'all? I'm Cavell Anderson, and we are back with another VeVe and Ecomi video. And in this one, we are going to be checking out a bullish case for $100,000 VeVe collectibles, and we're going to be checking this out. Like, there's some strong arguments throughout this video, so we're going to be looking at it. You all let me know what you all think in the comment section down below. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you disagree. Let me know your thoughts and perspectives on it. And also let me know down below any of the collectibles that you feel will actually hit $100,000 and why. I'm definitely interested in hearing all the different perspectives because me, like I said, I know some obvious things. Like, you all know my thought process when it comes down to the Spider-Man. I think that could easily hit $1 million. There's only ever going to be 1,000 people who can hold the Spider-Man. Easily, I think that's going to hit $1 million. Then we've already gone over Star Trek and how that's insanely undervalued right now. I think you can get the whole set for around $700. Like, Star Trek, insanely undervalued. And then there's a few others, but for me, it's common sense stuff that I've just known my whole life, the brands that I know, and I know how massive these is. Like, if it's 50 million freaking fans of something and you can only get 1,000 ever, come on now, come on. So, yeah, we're gonna be checking this out. Let me know your thoughts. Be sure to check out his channel down below as well. Also, subscribe, turn on notifications so you stay updated with everything going on. And yeah, let's get into it.
VeVe is slowly becoming more known in the crypto and NFT space. And with its move to Immutable X and the MTL coming shortly, I wanted to look at some of the VeVe collectibles and comics to see what they truly could be worth in the future if we hold for the long run. So let's get into that. Welcome in everyone, my name is Andy and I appreciate you taking some time out your day to come and watch this video on the channel. Just before we get started, this is not financial advice, this is all my own experience. You should do your own research for anything that you're doing. Now, prices right now on the VeVe app are fluctuating quite a lot. I'd say we're pretty much at the lowest we're going to see these Season 1 and Season 2 collectibles at for a long time, especially after the transfer to Immutable comes.
See, so starting off already, I do want to point out for you all that these are the lowest prices you're ever going to get in on some of these. These are all first appearances and they're Season 1 and Season 2, which means that if VeVe stays around and gets all the way up to like a Season 10 or something, some of the most coveted things are going to be from Season 1 and Season 2 because they're going to be seen as ancient. You all know how fast the internet moves. You all know how fast the world moves. So we're going to be at season 5, 6, 7 before you know it. So some of the most coveted things and the most sought after things is going to be these things from just because they're in Season 1 or 2. So even though first appearances and things like that, those are insane to hold. Like, you almost can't go wrong buying anything from Season 1, 2, or 3, to be completely honest with you. 1, 2, or 3. Like, first appearances, obviously gold. But yeah. It's just keep that in mind. Keep that, like, you can almost not go wrong with investments right now. I will be going over in a future video how much I've spent on collectibles versus how much I've actually made in profit. But what's crazy is somebody wrote a crazy comment yesterday, and I had to think, like, yo, like they're talking about how they've lost so much with VeVe and stuff like that. As far as VeVe is concerned, as far as Omi's concerned, I'm in the positives by far, and it's crazy because I like. Dollar cost averaging, it works. Like, it works. Like, people are complaining. I'm listen, like, if you take some of the advice that people who are wiser than you gives you, like, you'll be set. Like, dollar cost averaging and stuff like that. I used to watch all types of gurus and stuff that swears by it. Like, Graham Stephan was one guy who preached about dollar cost averaging and stuff like that. And I didn't understand at the time how it even worked, but it works. So yeah, anyway, let's jump back into it.
Because there's going to be a lot more people who are going to be able to get their hands on these collectibles in a very short space of time. Well, it's going to be an interesting note to see how many people cash out and what they sell their collectibles at, how many new big players will come in to buy things, how the price will actually react. I'm more so looking at things for the future where we're years down the line and potential mass adoption is finally here. Now, right now, with the price of the collectibles, you can get Batman's first ever collectible in NFT format for around $500. Now, that's about 0.2 Ethereum when we look at it compared to OpenSea. And some of the things you can buy for 0.2 Ethereum is wild. Only the projects that are sort of slowly starting to build their way up and truly building.
Let's be honest. We looked at yesterday, he said 0.2. Look at some of the stuff you can buy. You can buy for a few million, like a few M's. It's like, compared to these prices, the stuff that, like, and it's crazy, but that's the thing about VeVe. I think this is the most beautiful thing about VeVe It's the fact that the collectibles, it's bringing in just regular people. On OpenSea, chances are it's a bunch of rich people with crazy money buying dumb shit. And I mean, to be fair, some of it's going to be valuable and stuff like that, but it's rich people wasting money. When it comes down to Vivi, these are real regular people who a lot of people can't even afford, like, to put certain types of money, like just throwing $500 at a collectible, even if it's going to be worth thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars one day. They don't have the 500 to even put in, like this, but that's sad. At the same time, it's beautiful the fact that Vivi is bringing in people like that into this space, because OpenSea sure as hell ain't doing that. OpenSea is not going to bring in an average consumer who can barely, who's barely making ends meet. But when people see like these licensed IP brands, it'll bring them into the space, and they'll fall in love, and they'll do as much as they can. And there's so many people doing that in the Vivi community. That's why this is one of the best communities on the internet. In my opinion, one of the best in the NFT space. Yeah, one of the best communities I've been a part of personally. Just saying.
Is wild. Only the projects that are sort of slowly starting to build their way up and truly building their communities start at that price and then slowly work their way up. I mean, if you look at things like CryptoPunks, they were given out for free in the Bored Ape Yacht Club. I don't actually know if they were given out for free, but they would have been very early on in this space, and having that now is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. If we look at something released recently, this was CryptoDads. This project has been on the rise for about a month or so. Leading up to the drop, it started at about 0.3 and now it's up to about 0.9 Ethereum. If you look at it, 0.9 Ethereum is around about $3,100. And anything that really compares to that at the moment anyway is Givenchy or some of the secret rares in the comic book areas. Now there is, of course, anyway.
I mean, just look at the comparison he just made. Listen, I'm black. This is a bald, weirdo looking guy. This is a bald weirdo.
As Givenchy or some of the.
Come on. And this is Givenchy. This is Givenchy right here. This is a bald weirdo versus this right here, man. Like, I don't care how many editions of it has. Like, I don't care if he's a one of one. He's a one of one bald guy versus an officially licensed Givenchy piece, in support of the LGBTQ community. Like, come on. No contest, man. No contest where Vivi NFTs is going. But people will realize this soon enough. But we are in a time right now where you have to take advantage of these opportunities right now, because these opportunities won't stick around. The people who can afford, I'm just saying.
Secret rares in the comic book areas. Now there is, of course, more that are costing that price, but I just want you to give you an understanding of the base price that some of these very good projects hold and the values that they actually have. Now Vivi is a little bit different, because with things like CryptoDads and all the other projects on OpenSea, they're all unique collectibles. None of them are the same. They're all different in some aspect. Well, they're very similar in some instances, but all of them have their unique aspect to it. And the difference with Vivi is they're all the same. Todd McFarlane's Batman, you have around 7,500 of them, which are all the same. And this is going to play a part in its long-term price and with what it's actually going to be worth.
Now, I do agree that is a fact. What he's saying is a fact, and I think that that's going to be one of the strongest arguments in the NFT space. But the reason that I personally don't believe that argument to be true, and I think that this mindset will be adopted over time, when it comes down to these CryptoPunks, they're no fans of it. No one gave a shit about CryptoPunks to begin with. No one cares. So you had to have this one of one and sell the exclusivity on it. Like, what is going to be your marketing strategy to buy this? What is going to be your marketing strategy outside of exclusivity? There is none. There is no marketing strategy. Now, when you take something like Batman and Marvel and things like this, it has tens of millions of fans already. So that being said, you're going in with multiple different marketing strategies. You can just have collectors who want to hold a piece of the brand. You can have people who just love this and it's affordable. There's so many, even though it's a ton more pieces, it's not in comparison. Because, for instance, there will only ever be a select few rich people or successful people who want a CryptoPunk. When it comes down to a Batman collectible or something like that, that's something that damn near anybody in the world would be interested in because of the IP alone. So I think IP is going to play a major part, and people are going to start looking more so towards IP. instead of exclusivity in something irrelevant. Something like people are grabbing things just for the sake of being exclusive. I hold a 1 of 1 of nothing. I'd gladly hold a 1 of 7,000 of something important than a 1 of 1 of a bald head random black guy. I'm just saying, like, and I can say that. So I mean, come on now.
The reason things like Bored Ape Yacht Club are becoming so high and so expensive is not only because of the community, but because of their own uniqueness and owning the rights to their own NFT. In this instance, we don't own the rights to Batman itself, we just have the collectible. This is where we get a little bit speculative. We believe that VeVe is going to be the bridge between mass adoption and sort of NFTs in general, which it seems to be working towards that as its main goal. Then these NFT prices are going to be something special. Not only because they're the first on the app, but because their first appearance of Batman, because they have their first editions, and the mint numbers as well, differentiating themselves as a sort of mint number or collectible in the NFT OpenSea space at the moment. And because they're all so different, it doesn't really matter what mint number you had. But like comic books in the real world, the grading for it will be sort of similar to the minting number of the NFT that you actually hold in the app itself. Some of these projects on OpenSea also rise upwards of $10,000, and to be honest, really aren't that great and don't have that much of a roadmap to speak and actually hold that sort of value. And as this is the case, I see things like Givenchy, Todd, Spider-Man, and more surpassing the 10k mark easily in the future. And potentially, if marketing is done right and mass adoption actually does happen in 5, 6, and 7 years, and collectibles, especially like Todd, could be worth upwards of $100,000. I'm trying to base this off a variety of factors. One being,
you have Donnie worth almost $100,000. Take that into consideration. Donnie, a random horse from the Powerpuff Girls, is worth almost $100,000. And you think that, and I know it's that crypto mindset, the scarcity. It's the scarcity. There'll only be a certain amount of people. I think that's a few hundred people who will ever be able to hold that piece. So scarcity does sell right now. But I think that what's going to happen is these people with all this tons of money to blow on like 70k Donnies and stuff like that, I feel that what they're going to realize at some point in the future is that scarcity is different when you're talking about something that has potentially 100 million people who wants that item, who loves that item, as opposed to something that a CryptoPunk is something that absolutely no one in the world actually wants. People are just on it because it has value. They own it because it's in the NFT space and it's going to have value potentially one day. It's a completely different ball game. One thing is sought after, the other thing is just there, and like you could replace X with anything else and it would have sold the same simply because it's just in the NFT space. It's like, it's no comparison. People are going to care less about scarcity. Never care less about scarcity. Scarcity is always going to be amazing, but realize that 7,000 editions, 10,000 editions is very, very scarce when it comes to 100 million fans. So having a 1 of 1 isn't that scarce when nobody wanted that shit to begin with. I'm just saying.
Being the price of collectibles that they were first ever on OpenSea or CryptoPunks, if we take that for an example. Of course, they're a little bit differently to what we are trying to compare them to. The same Todd happens with every single Todd. There isn't really a differentiation other than the mint number. But you also have to think about how psychology works purely in the collector's format. With comic books, it's the grading system for it. How high a grade is it, the more people are going to pay. With things in OpenSea, rarer properties are going to get you more money because of what they are. So for me and VeVe, the first ever collectible on the app, it's the first ever Batman that's licensed by DC on the app and will ever be, and is also going to be able to differentiate itself through its mint number. And that's why I can see a price like $100,000 not actually being that far-fetched with something like that. I might be completely out of my mind saying something like that, but if I were to tell you that something like CryptoPunks were going for easily upwards of 500,000, some Bored Ape Yacht Clubs were going for 19 million, you'd think I was absolute batshit crazy. No pun intended. So to say that VeVe has over 400,000 people, a comic book sold out in less than a second with 10,000 editions, shows me that there's still a very massive following behind this that wants to see this app grow. The app was meant to have 35 to 40,000 people by this point, and it's got over 400,000. The community
I think this video was actually made like a few weeks ago, so that might have been before we knew that we have over 700,000, maybe closer to 800,000, moving towards that million now. So just saying, like, we have over 700,000 people now. So this argument he's making is even stronger. Just saying.
Community has always been solid with VeVe, backing it, and I see it constantly on Twitter with everyone talking about it, what they're buying, how many collectibles they have. And just as a side note, I passed 100 collectibles today, so I'm buzzing about that. There's so many people who are backing this, and the roadmap has already got so many things that just stand out way further from the crowd than anything else. I wouldn't have thought that the secret rares for the Marvel Comics would be over 15,000, the first one on the app now.
Oh yeah, so this was at that, like, so this tells you a timeline of the video when those was those prices, because I'm pretty sure those like 40,000 now, so kind of gives you a timeline.
And that is probably going to continue to rise, because we have to think about how collectors genuinely collect and how this is going to be possible for a lot more people to get in a very short time. With the Mutable and MTL coming, people are going to be able to put their Ethereum in without them having to worry of their bank completely shutting down their account because they're putting $10,000 from their bank straight into VeVe. They can transfer their Ethereum, or potentially in the future using their OME to actually buy the NFTs, meaning there really doesn't have to be that much struggle to get things that you really want. I'm going to try and back this up with not as much speculative data, more of a genuine sort of proposal behind it, because I know you can just come on here and I could say it'll be worth £10 million and then that's it, but I'm going to try to back this up as best as I can with facts. And this is where it leads me on to the comics that have just been released. Now, there's been maybe 8 drops for the comics so far. I'm not too sure. All have sold out in less than 2 minutes. And 2 minutes was the first one, and everything else has been like under a minute. And the one recently had 10,000 editions that sold out in literally a second. You couldn't get it after it was out.
And what's crazy is he's just told you the timeline, the progression of these drops. As of lately, they sell out in less than a second consistently, and no matter the editions. So, I mean, maybe you got to wiggle. You gotta, like, it's immediately an error. Like, it's immediately sold out when it's a 10,000 edition one. When it's a 30,000 edition one, you got room to press the button again, and then it tells you it's sold out. It's like, yeah.
So it's been nuts to see how many people are genuinely going for these drops, how much demand is happening for this. Now, the comics started quite low, and I think this is purely because we've been so accustomed to digital collectibles. Comics were completely new for so many people, including me. I've never read a comic in my life. I've never picked up a comic from a superhero in my life. I've never been to a comic book store. I never thought I was going to be someone to read a comic. I'm now a massive collector of comics on this app because you can read them in AR, you can read them however you'd like, and I've been loving the comics. I've been loving to take a look at them, to read them, and to see what they're about, because it's so interesting to see what they are. So for someone like me, I know I'm not alone in that. A lot of people on this VeVe app would have not collected comic books whatsoever, but are now collectors of comic books. That is because adoption is starting to happen and changes are starting to be made, and why I believe the comic books started low and now people are realizing just how valuable these can be. Also a podcast that I saw on Twitter, and it was mentioned, where it talked about how comic books and NFT world are going to be related to the grading system of quality that they have in the physical world. So your mint number is going to matter a lot more than anything else, because all the comic books are the same grade. They're all going to have a 10 grade because they'll never go down in that sort of way.
And this was before they released the news that we could potentially be seeing comics go down. So I know that this is something that people were triggered about. I don't know what they're going to do about it, but me personally, not being a collector, I mean, I like it. And in the spirit of collecting, I like them, because what you got to understand is we're moving to a digital age where, yeah, a lot of things is going to change from the current world. But I do think that there's some things, the beauty of knowing that, the beauty of feeling the need to protect your asset and your collectible, I feel like it's something beautiful about that. Having them in these packaging, having this whole community, this grading system, having this whole thing around the collectibles. I think that that's something the collectible community should value. But that's just my community. That's just my opinion as the outside looking in of the community. So yeah, I mean, that's my thoughts on it. But I mean, you never know what they're going to decide to do ultimately.
But in terms of mint number, that's how collectors and true collectors are going to differentiate what one's more rare, what one's worth getting. For a little bit of data, we can make this more of an actual proposal rather than just guesswork. Now, Marvel Comics #1 was the first Marvel comic on VeVe as well, and the record sale of the Marvel 1 sold for $1.26 million. That had a 9.4 grading in 2019. A 9.0 listed a pay copy in February 2010 for $227,000. So we can already see people are willing to pay a lot of money for comics. If we look at the $875,000 value for the 9.4 rating, we can sort of base this system on the percentage of mints at certain areas. So if you take 98%, then the top 2% of mints of that comic is going to be the 9.8 grading. In that instance, they've valued a 10 out of 10 grading at $1.26 million. So if you're talking about something on the VeVe app where they cost around 30 gems, the lowest for the top 2% is probably $700 to $800. Then I can see this comic book in 5 to 10 years. I can't even begin to try and guess what I think this could be in 5 to 10 years. Especially if VeVe continues to do what they do and are successful as a company as a whole, which they have proven to be. I think for a lot of us, we can now see that they're actually doing a lot of work that's really, really good, and I hope that the people who are maybe doubting VeVe are starting to see that. But surely the top 2% of these mints of Marvel comic #1 could be easily upwards of $10,000, $20,000, and $30,000 overall. Of course, this comic was made in 1939 during World War, so finding one that has a 9.4 grading still to this day is just nuts. And I know that comparison is quite hard to make because we're so early with NFTs and physical copies have been out for so long. But is it really that far-fetched to see the first ever Marvel digital comic not being a massive, massive thing that collectors want to get, and especially the low mint numbers that they want to get, if that is the case? And
honestly, me personally, this may be I'm not a collector, so this may be coming from an uneducated perspective, but I honestly think that NFT versions can become more valuable than some of the regular collectibles. And the reason being is because more people are just going to be interested. More people are in this online world and going to be educated on what's going on VeVe. Like, this is something that can truly be mass adopted. So that being said, it's going to have a much wider audience as opposed to something where you have to have really been digging into comics to even know this side of the world existed. I mean, I knew that there was collectibles in cards, there was collectible in comics and things like that. You know, it's just something that you never get into if you don't know anyone who's into it. So knowing that it exists and actually understanding it and seeing it and it being a big deal, I think this is going to be a big deal in the metaverse because you'll be able to see people's homes and stuff like that through these metaverses that's built around the world. And you're going to see stuff like this where you look at this and you look at it and be like, oh, that was a X amount of dollars piece right here. And I want a comic book. I want this. I want that. And then you see some rich guy. You go to his house and you see a bunch of VeVe collectibles in some metaverse somewhere. I think it's just going to get more people on board with this. And I think that these digital collectibles could become much, much more valuable. Just my opinion, though.
More people are going to adopt it the way we believe it is. For me, this is a no-brainer. This is just how I see the world moving. The world is going to become digital. It already is becoming digital. So comic books like this, although are going to hold their insane value, collectors are going to want to collect something else. It's going to be a new generation of people who collect NFTs and have them. It's already happening. Even if we go off the lowest price guide report for this at 2.0 grading, this grade report is averaging its price at around $30,000. I can easily see the NFTs surpassing that with the lowest mints, purely based off of a collector standpoint. And this is also not to say that comic books are sort of on the decline. They're actually increasing. The unfortunate thing is I couldn't find out how many of these comics were actually made. And if anyone in the comments knows, please let me know. I've been trying to find out how many of these were actually.
Yeah, that's actually something I wanted to look into myself. How many of these comics were made in the real world? I couldn't find a lot of that information either. That's the one thing that I was looking at because I wanted to know the comparison versus how many is dropped on VeVe. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're going to end it off at. If you want to finish this video and watch some of his other content, be sure to subscribe to his channel down below in the comment section. But yeah, let me know what you all think of this video. I think that this was very, very amazing, amazingly put together. And he makes a lot of great points, a lot of points that we've talked about here on the channel before. And it's a lot of people in the community who get it. So I enjoy checking out other channels and bringing you all something that you might not have seen already. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know some of the education that you all have about this space and stuff like that that I might not know. Because like I said, I'm not a collector. I am newer to it. And yeah, so yeah, let me know y'all thoughts. Be sure to drop that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're new, turn on notifications so you stay updated with everything going on. And yeah, I'm going to catch you all on the next one. Peace out, y'all.